athletes. This in a telephone conference later today. Previously, the International Olympic Committee promised to apply the toughest measures possible, sparking speculation that the whole Russian team could be banned from participating in the Rio Olympics. However, the Association of Summer Olympic International Federations has made a statement against such broad sanctions. Now, the reaction from the sports governing bodies comes in response to a damning report by an independent commission for the World Anti-Doping Agency. Let's remind you of the main findings. The commission, headed by the sports lawyer Richard McLaren, stated that a Moscow anti-doping lab was providing false reports of positive samples. They also concluded there was a unique sample swapping scheme to ensure the victory of the Russian team during the Sochi Games. The third finding claims the Russian Sports Ministry was behind the scheme, with the Federal Security Services also involved. Well, my colleague Neil Harvey had the chance to verify certain concerns with the researcher of the report and the author as well, namely Professor Richard McLaren.
First question I want to ask, because it's something that quite a few people have said about your report, some questions over whether you actually contacted the Russia Sports Ministry to get their side of the story. Did you make contact with them? I
did not make contact with them, nor did they come forward to offer anything to me.
Well, just off the back of that, did you not feel it was important to hear what they had to say in explanation?
I was also on the independent commission, and I did have interviews in connection with that work, and we found that was not very helpful. And so I made a decision that with 57 days to do my work, I didn't have the time and they didn't seem to have the interest, so I didn't do that.
I'd just like to ask you next about the government connection, because this has been called state-sponsored doping in Russia. In state-sponsored doping in Russia, what's your evidence of the government connection?
The evidence of government connections comes from the electronic data, the revived electronic files that were deleted, and other similar sources, and demonstrates with email communications, other types of communications, how the system worked right up to the Deputy Minister of Sport.
You mentioned some emails. Have you in this report named all the names? Have you got the proof to back all of this up so that everyone knows the exact chain of evidence and who's implicated?
We have all of that evidence locked up. Some of it has been provided by way of confidential arrangements. So we haven't published it, but we certainly have it. And we're not going to publish it because of the need to protect the sources that provided the information and their concerns about what might happen to family members.
Yeah, we also asked several sports experts to comment on some controversial points in the report.
With the utmost respect to Mr. McLaren, I don't know of any attorney who would say that, having not heard from the other side, they can make any conclusion beyond a reasonable belief. So let's understand the limitations here. This is an opening salvo. It's an incredibly important document. The accusations are very serious, but it is just the beginning of this process in trying to figure out what's true.
I guess that this is very important. Does Mr. Rodkoshenko can give evidence of what he's saying, or is something that he just simply saw, or he's saying that he is sure that this happened? This is a very strong accusations against Russia. You should give evidence.
If this was a standard police investigation or a police report investigation in Britain or the US or in Russia, then of course it would fall, because we want to know who these witnesses are. We're just told there are witnesses. We're not told who they are, what they witnessed.
All right, RT's Yegor Piskorov now joining us live from the studio for more reacts on this, particularly the reaction from Russia.
Well, this report is causing quite a stir, let's say that, in the least, because, well, this is a major deal. We're looking at a possible blanket ban of the entire Olympic team, the national team. The Rio Olympics are just around the corner now, and this is a major threat to the sports in Russia. A lot of attention is being paid to Mr. McLaren's report. However, there are a lot of questions to it as well. As we've just heard from the interview, he claims that he has evidence, but he didn't publish this evidence, even though the scale of this all is so huge and it's so important. They still don't present us with actual detailed evidence of what exactly, how these doping schemes, alleged doping schemes were conducted. Also, Russian authorities say that, well, okay, so they're ready to cooperate, but they weren't even asked or they weren't consulted with during this report, which is also a bit odd. Let's call it that. The authorities have been saying that they want clean athletes in the Russian national teams. They do want to punish those responsible, but they want to have some names at least of, or some evidence or detailed evidence of how it should be done so they could resolve this problem, which hasn't happened as of so far, even though perhaps as a symbolic measure, President Putin has sacked the deputy sports minister after the report was published. Nonetheless, the other issue is to the persona of Mr. McLaren, not Mr. McLaren, I'm sorry, but he quotes a lot of his statements are quoted or done with the help of Mr. Rodchenkov, who is quite a controversial character, and well, he has a history of controversy in Russia and perhaps now in the United States. Here's a little clip of who that person is.
Grigory Rodchenkov accused dozens of Russian Sochi medalists of using prohibited substances. He claimed Russia's Secret Service led a large-scale doping operation during the 2014 Olympics. He told the New York Times that he himself developed a 3-drug cocktail of banned substances, which he mixed with alcohol and gave to athletes. And he also spoke of how he regularly broke into tamper-proof Berlinger lab bottles in order to switch tainted samples for clean ones. Rodchenkov was head of an anti-doping laboratory in Moscow. Last November, the World Anti-Doping Agency suspended his lab after accusing him of personally destroying more than 1,400 doping samples. After the scandal, he resigned and moved to the US. Russia's sports minister back then said that Rodchenkov had been given a lab in Los Angeles, which he now runs. Reports on his exact whereabouts, or what he's up to, can't be confirmed. The trail went cold after he moved to the US.
Arty's Yegor Piskunov, thanks for that. We have more news for you after the break.